They say no is a complete sentence, but for many of us, it's the hardest one to say. Have you ever agreed to something you didn't want to do just to avoid disappointing someone? Or smiled through frustration because you were too afraid to set a boundary? If you've ever felt that tight knot in your stomach when you want to say no but feel you can't, you're not alone. This video is for you. We're diving deep into one of the most underrated life skills, the art of saying no. But this isn't about being cold or selfish. It's about protecting your time, your peace, and your mental health. Saying no isn't rejection, it's redirection. And it can be done with strength, grace, and compassion. But here's the kicker. Most of us have been conditioned, since childhood, to associate no with guilt. Guilt that we're letting others down. Guilt that we're not being helpful enough. Guilt that we're being selfish. And when you constantly say yes to others, you slowly start saying no to yourself, your needs, your energy, your dreams. What if learning to say no wasn't just about setting limits, but about redefining your self-worth? We'll explore why you feel guilty, how to shift your mindset, and practical scripts you can use to protect your boundaries without burning bridges. So ask yourself, how much of your life are you giving away because you're afraid to say a two-letter word? Stick around, because once you learn how to say no with confidence, you'll start living a life that feels more like yours. It's not about being rude. It's about being real with yourself. Let's begin. Why we struggle to say no. Most of us learn to say yes before we even understand what we're agreeing to. As children, we're taught to be polite, agreeable, and to avoid conflict. Don't talk back. Be nice. Make sure everyone is happy. It's reinforced in subtle and not so subtle ways. When we're praised for being easygoing, or when we're scolded for speaking up. Fast forward to adulthood, and those messages are still there, just wearing different clothes. We become the dependable coworker who picks up extra tasks, even when we're already overwhelmed. The friend who always shows up, even when we're running on empty. The partner who says yes, even when every fiber of our being is screaming no. And we do it because we think it's what we're supposed to do. At the core of our inability to say no is fear. Fear of rejection. Fear of disappointing others. Fear of not being liked. And behind that fear, a deep need for approval. We say yes because we want to be seen as kind, generous, loyal, supportive. And all those things are good. But not when they come at the cost of our own well-being. This is what people-pleasing looks like. And it's not kindness, it's self-abandonment. And here's the tricky part. When we say yes to avoid discomfort, we feel better for a moment. That wave of relief washes over us because we avoided conflict. But that relief is temporary. Because after the yes comes the resentment, the burnout, the self-blame, and often, the quiet question, why can't I just say no? The answer lies in how we define our worth. When your sense of worth is tied to being needed, to being useful, or to making others happy, you'll always feel guilty for saying no. Because in your mind, saying no means you're failing at being lovable, that you're letting people down, that you're not enough. But the truth is this, you are not obligated to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. And guilt? Guilt is just a sign that you're doing something new, something that challenges your old programming. In fact, guilt often shows up right when you're making progress. It's like an internal alarm system stuck in the past, going off because it's never experienced this kind of boundary before. It doesn't mean you're wrong. It means you're rewiring, and rewiring takes time. Many of us also struggle to say no because we weren't shown healthy boundaries growing up. Maybe your parents gave too much and modeled martyrdom. Or maybe they punished you when you asserted yourself. So now, as an adult, saying no feels not just uncomfortable, but dangerous. That fear you feel? That's not weakness, that's survival instinct. But the truth is, you're safe now. You're allowed to take up space. You're allowed to protect your peace. You don't need to explain your no. You don't need to prove you're tired enough, or busy enough, or stressed enough. No is enough. Understanding why you struggle to say no is the first step to changing it. Once you recognize that guilt is not a moral compass, but a habit, you can start building a new relationship with your boundaries. One where no doesn't feel like failure. It feels like freedom. And once you taste that freedom, you'll never want to go back. The hidden costs of always saying yes. At first, saying yes feels harmless. It feels like generosity, like being a team player, like doing the right thing. But over time, those little yeses add up, and they start to cost you in ways you never expected. Let's talk about those hidden costs. When you constantly say yes to others, you often say no to yourself. No to rest, no to creative time, no to your own priorities. Slowly, your schedule fills up with things that matter to everyone else, but leave you drained, depleted, and disconnected from your own needs. Emotionally, it creates a pattern of quiet resentment. You find yourself irritated at the people you're helping, even though you volunteered. You start feeling unappreciated, used, and worst of all, you start to lose touch with your own identity. Because when your life revolves around pleasing others, you forget who you are outside of that role. Mentally, it fuels stress and anxiety. There's that constant mental load of juggling other people's needs, managing expectations, and replaying conversations in your head, wondering if you upset someone or if you should have said something differently. That overthinking becomes exhausting. You're mentally on all the time, but never for yourself. Physically, the effects are just as real. Chronic people pleasers often experience burnout, sleep issues, fatigue, and even lowered immune function. Because your body knows when you're under pressure, even if you're smiling through it. Stress hormones don't care how nice you're being. They just keep firing. And spiritually, always saying yes can leave you feeling out of alignment with your purpose. Like you're living someone else's life. Like your days belong to everyone except you. What makes it so dangerous is how invisible it is. From the outside, you look like the reliable friend, the helpful employee, the caring partner. But inside, you're carrying a quiet exhaustion that no one sees. And since you're always the one others turn to, no one thinks to ask if you're okay. It's not just burnout, it's identity erosion. Every time you betray your own needs for the sake of others, your self-trust gets a little weaker. You stop listening to your intuition. You stop believing you're allowed to choose yourself. And eventually, you might stop trying. And that's where it gets scary, because when you're always performing for approval, your worth starts to feel conditional. Conditional on your usefulness. Conditional on your compliance. Conditional on never saying no. But here's the truth. Real connection, real love, doesn't require self-sacrifice. It requires honesty. And honesty sometimes sounds like, I can't do that right now. I need space. No, thank you. That's not rejection. That's self-respect. So ask yourself, what is all this saying yes really costing you? Your peace, your energy, your joy, your self-respect? Recognizing the cost doesn't make you selfish, it makes you self-aware. And awareness is where real change begins. How to actually say no. Let's break the myth right now. Saying no doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't have to come with an apology, a 10-minute explanation, or a trail of burned relationships. The truth is, you can say no with confidence and compassion. You can hold a boundary and still be kind. You can protect your peace without being harsh. So, how do you do it? Let's start with something practical: language. Most people struggle to say no because they think it has to sound harsh or final, but the magic is in the how. You can soften the delivery without softening the boundary. Try these. I appreciate you thinking of me, but I'm going to have to pass this time. That's not something I can commit to right now. I'm not available, but I hope it goes well. Thanks for the invite, but I need to prioritize rest this weekend. These are clear, respectful, and non-negotiable. You don't need to over-explain. Clarity is kindness. Vagueness leads to confusion and pushback. Now, let's talk tone. When you deliver a boundary, speak with calm certainty. Not defensiveness, not guilt. Think of it like ordering food. You don't apologize for not wanting pickles on your sandwich. You just say it. That energy matters. Still worried about people's reactions? Let's normalize this. People might feel disappointed. That's okay. Their disappointment doesn't make your boundary wrong. In fact, the people who love and respect you will adapt, even if it takes a minute. And if someone keeps pushing after you've said no, that's information, not a reason to bend. When someone refuses to respect your boundary, what they're really saying is, "My comfort matters more than your peace." Let that sink in. Another helpful technique: the pause and process. When someone makes a request and you feel pressure to respond immediately, pause. Say, "Let me check my calendar and get back to you." This buys you time to reflect and respond with intention instead of people-pleasing. And here's a game changer. You don't need to feel 100% confident to set a boundary. You just need to do it anyway. Confidence grows after the action, not before. Boundary setting is a muscle. At first, it feels uncomfortable, awkward, even scary. But every time you do it, you get stronger. And soon, what once felt terrifying becomes second nature. Also, remember this. Every time you say no to something misaligned, you create space for something meaningful. Your yeses become more powerful, more intentional, more you. And that's what it's all about. Not just saying no, but saying yes to your peace, your time, and your authenticity. So the next time someone asks something of you, ask yourself, is this a full-body yes, or a hesitant, guilt-driven yes? If it's the latter, give yourself permission to say no. Your peace is worth protecting. What happens when you start saying no? So what actually happens when you start saying no? At first, discomfort, guilt, maybe even a little fear. You might worry about what others will think. You'll probably second-guess yourself. That's normal, especially if you've spent years saying yes on autopilot. But then something shifts. You realize that the world doesn't fall apart when you set a boundary. The people who truly care about you don't vanish. And the ones who do? They were only there for your compliance, not your company. You start to breathe deeper, sleep better, think more clearly. Because for the first time, your time belongs to you. Your calendar opens up. You get a weekend to yourself, a quiet evening without obligation. You rediscover what it feels like to have energy, to have clarity, to feel peace without needing to earn it. You also notice how your self-respect grows. With every no, you reinforce to yourself that your needs matter, that your voice matters, that you matter, and you begin to attract different energy, friends who respect your time, work that aligns with your values, relationships built on truth, not guilt. It doesn't mean life becomes conflict-free. Some people will push back, but now you're equipped to handle it with grace and firmness. You stop apologizing for taking care of yourself. Saying no becomes less about rejection and more about redirection. You're not pushing people away. You're pulling yourself back into alignment. And the beautiful part? Once you taste this version of life, the one where you're no longer a prisoner to other people's expectations, you won't want to go back. Because saying no isn't just a skill, it's a revolution. You've made it this far, and that says something big. You're ready to stop living on autopilot. You're ready to stop saying yes out of fear and start saying no out of self-respect. Let's be clear, saying no isn't about being cold. It's about being clear. It's not about shutting people out. It's about letting the right people in. You're allowed to take up space. You're allowed to protect your time, your energy, your peace. And no, you don't owe anyone a justification for that. Here's the truth. Boundaries are love. They're how you show love to others and to yourself. Because when you're running on empty, you can't truly give anyone your best. And you shouldn't have to. It's not your job to manage everyone's feelings. It's your job to honor your truth. And sometimes that truth sounds like, no, thank you, or that doesn't work for me, or simply, not this time. You deserve a life that feels like yours, not one shaped by guilt, fear, or obligation. So start small. Practice one no this week. Watch how it feels. Notice how it shifts the energy. Then do it again. And again, because every no brings you closer to your authentic self. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be real. And if this video helped you feel seen, supported, or inspired, don't keep it to yourself. Like the video. Share it with someone who struggles with boundaries. And if you want more content like this, subscribe. We're building a community of people learning to live, love, and lead with truth. You don't need permission to say no. But if you've been waiting for it, here it is.